Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, continuing to take a look at the next week's slate, heading back out to the Pac-12 as Cal heads on the road to play one of the hottest teams in college football, the Oregon Ducks, a dominant performance against Utah. And you take a look at what Dan Lanning is doing in Eugene and kind of how this team is rounding out into the back half of the schedule. This is one of the most dangerous teams in college football. Really excited to get into this one. Cal has some playmakers on offense want to talk about. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys and a special shout out to the Oregon fans. We recapped that Oregon-Utah game, talked some recruiting. The amount of support the Oregon fans have shown, the Go Ducks in the comment section, that it really does mean a lot. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. Picks, predictions, keys to the game, anything I left out, let me know. We'll chop it up there. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start with this Cal offense that's going up against an Oregon defense that, as much attention as this Oregon offense gets, the number one rushing attack in the country, top 5 scoring offense, this Oregon defense has been absolutely phenomenal. And they'll have some things to take a look at with this Cal team. Take a look. Cal, 32.5 points per game. That's a top 30 scoring offense in the country. Got to give the USC defense a little shout out for that Cal offensive performance last weekend. They run the ball extremely well. 4.8 yards per carry. That's top 30 in the country. The real thing you got to be aware of for this Cal team is Jaden Ott at the running back position is one of the most dynamic running backs, not only in the Pac-12, but in the country. It's no secret that Cal wants to run the football, and a lot of their offensive production, a lot of their explosive plays comes from the running back, Jaden Ott. Now, Oregon is going to have to be really disciplined with their run fits, because what Jaden Ott really excels at is when he gets to the second level and he gets some space, that's when he's making people miss, and he has that home run speed. USC really failed to fit their runs, giving Jaden Ott access to that second level, and that's how Jaden Ott was getting to work against USC. Oregon and those linebackers need to do a really good job fitting those runs and not really giving Jaden Ott much room at the second level, because that is really where he's most dangerous. And you'll take a look at Cal's passing game. It's not great, but they went to their third-string quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, redshirt freshman, kind of giving Cal's offense a little bit of juice, and 62% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's not an all-American level quarterback, that's for sure. He's a young kid. That being said, he's kind of a gamer. Like, he makes some plays with his legs, makes some throws to move the chains. This is a guy that is not necessarily was the highest touted guy out of high school, but can move the chains and kind of contributes to a Cal offense that starting to hit its stride towards the back half of this season. Now, taking a look at this Oregon defense, I said this is a defense that is massively improved year 2 under Dan Lanning. Some of the overarching numbers, 16.9 points per game. That's number 18 in the country. Only 4.6 yards per play, 14th in the country. 3 yards per carry to opposing offenses. That's top 10 in the country. And that's, for me, where it starts. This defensive line, I kind of called out in a way a couple of weeks ago saying, I want a little bit more from them. Like, I know Jordan Burch, Brandon Dorlus, those guys are good and they're talented. I want to see them take over games. That's kind of what you saw against Utah. Brandon Dorlus, Jordan Burch, Popo Amabe, he's in my notes as well. A ton of guys winning at the point of attack, getting behind the line of scrimmage. That's really the key for this Oregon team, because when you see that defensive line win at the point of attack, those guys at the second level are flying around the football field. Have to give a special shout out to Evan Williams. Like, his performance against Utah, that was the best. Evan Williams has been very good for Oregon. That was by far the best game I've seen him play for the Oregon Ducks. This is a guy that some of y'all said in the comment section after the recap of the Utah game, want to see him more around the line of scrimmage, being closer to the football. I couldn't agree more after watching the film back. This is a guy that he just seems more comfortable. He seems to have a higher impact on the game when he's around the line of scrimmage, in that tackle box, getting his nose into the run game. His average depth of tackle against Utah, coming all the way from that safety spot, 2.2 yards downfield. This is a guy that was living behind the line of scrimmage for the Oregon Ducks. Tysheem Johnson really getting it done with the 2 picks. Last guy I want to shout out, you could shout out really this whole Oregon team. Justin Jacobs Really excited to see what he can bring to this Oregon Ducks team in the second half of the season, right? Transfer from Iowa, battled some injuries. He looks like a difference maker. Really excited to see him continue to get his feet wet. Because when you look at maybe a rematch against Washington or whoever you see potentially in the Pac-12 championship game, Justin Jacobs, I think, is going to be a difference maker by that time. Now, flipping sides, this is a Cal defense that not great, right? You take a look at some of the numbers. Utah ran the ball for 317 yards. Oregon State, 215 yards. In the passing game, a 64% completion percentage given up. That's 108th in the country. And 8.8 yards per pass. That's 126th. They give up the explosive play through the air, and they let teams run the football against them. And quite frankly, that's a bad recipe for stopping this Oregon Ducks team. That, again, why I'm so high on Oregon is they can do the best of both worlds, right? You take a look at the run game. They're averaging 6.1 yards per carry, number one in the country, two of the best running backs in the country in Bucky Irvin and Jordan James. This offensive line, when it comes to gap scheme, moving bodies, and letting these running backs get downhill, there's not a better offensive line in the country. And yes, has pass protection for Josh Conley Jr. been a problem as a second-year guy? 100%. But when he's getting downhill and using that physical frame in the run game, he's an absolute hammer. And when you give Bucky Irving, Jordan James some daylight, I mean, the contact balance that these two have, it's absolutely insane. And when you give them space to make people miss, that's when they're most dangerous. And that's why this rushing attack has been so good. And if you want to load the box, like Bo Nix is playing as a Heisman caliber quarterback, kind of got left out of the conversation after losing to Washington. Bo Nix leads the country in completion percentage. He's averaging 8.7 yards per pass. That's top 20 in the country. This is a team that is so hard to stop because you're not really going to be able to stop this team running the football with just having a 5-man box. You have to commit more bodies or else you're just going to run the football the length of the field. And when you do that, that's when this Oregon team hits the explosive play through the air. Troy Franklin had a few drops, still one of the best wide receivers in the country. Love what they're doing with Tez Johnson. Like, just get the football in space to him, let him go make plays. That's what he excels at. You take a look at this Oregon team, especially on offense, when they're running the football, when Bo Nix is on, which has been pretty much the whole season. This is a unit that is impossible to stop, all behind a very good offensive line. I'm interested to see what Cal tries to do to stop Oregon at home, but quite frankly, I don't even know if I could give you the blueprint because they're so good at pretty much everything they want to do. And I thought the play calling was really good against Utah too. That is a Utah defense that the top 20 group in the country, like an extremely good group. In Oregon not only won at the point of attack and out physical Utah, but they were scheming everything up. Utah does not give much easy. Oregon made it look easy, which is it speaks to how special this offense is. Now, getting to the pick here, Oregon 24.5-point favorites at home. And I'll say this, Cal played really good against USC. Watch back the film. They have some dynamic players, but if Oregon plays even close to what you saw them play against Cal, it's really hard to see Oregon not covering the number. And the most encouraging thing is, in the second half, this is a second half team for the Oregon Ducks. They play really good in the second half. So even if they get up early, they're going to step on the throat. Dan Lanning and this program has that killer instinct in them, right? That they're not going to let teams back into this one. I'm going to take Oregon to cover the 24.5 points. I get it's a lot of points, but this Oregon team, as they've played the last couple of weeks, it's kind of a Death Star. Like, they're just kind of chopping up every single team that you put in front of them. Cal, I got a lot of respect for what they do on the offensive side of the football. I don't think it's going to be enough for the way this Oregon Ducks team is playing, especially back at home in Autzen Stadium. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, can't thank you guys enough. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.